Brace yourselves, because what you're about to hear isn't just a scandal. It's a ticking time bomb that could shake the very foundation of hip-hop loyalty. Imagine this. While King Von was off the scene, disappearing into the shadows of mystery and danger, his so-called inner circle was cooking up the kind of betrayal even soap operas couldn't script. And at the center of this jaw-dropping mess, none other than Lil Durk and Asian Doll. Now let me ask you what happens when loyalty is nothing but a hashtag. What happens when a legacy built on blood, brotherhood, and block respect gets shattered by whispers of a secret baby, hidden doctor visits, and a hush-hush abortion that could bury everything Von ever stood for? Fans are already flooding the internet, asking the same question. Did Durk really betray Von from the grave? Or has Asian Doll been sitting on a truth so explosive that it makes every past rumor look like child's play? Leaked D-Miz, cryptic lyrics, and anonymous friends of friends are all pointing in one dangerous direction. But is this just messy gossip, or the ultimate dagger through King Von's legacy? Stay tuned, because the receipts are uglier than anyone imagined. Lil Durk's name has always carried a weight in hip-hop, but never the kind that makes fans clutch their pearls and whisper in disbelief like this. For years, he played the loyal brother, the one holding Von's name high after his death, the one preaching loyalty in interviews and on stage. But what if I told you that loyalty was just a mask, a perfectly polished performance hiding a reality so messy that even the streets are shaking their heads? Behind the music videos, the social media tributes, and the legacy chants, there's an entire world of secret encounters, whispered meetings, and late-night rendezvous with none other than Asian Doll, the same Asian Doll who publicly branded herself as Von's girl, the same woman who fought tooth and nail to claim his memory after his death. And yet, while Von's shadow still hung heavy in the air, these two were allegedly playing with fire, a fire that eventually sparked into something bigger than either of them could hide. Imagine the scene. Von out of the picture, his loyal fans mourning, his family trying to piece together a shattered legacy. The streets are full of murals, tributes, endless conversations about what could have been. And somewhere in the background, Durk and Asian Doll are slipping away, disappearing into hotel lobbies and backseat cars, living a double life they swore didn't exist. The betrayal isn't just in the actions, it's in the silence. The silence of Durk playing the grieving brother on stage while behind closed doors, he was creating a scandal so twisted it could make even the coldest gangster stories look soft. And let's not forget, this isn't the first time Durk's name has been attached to drama of this kind. From rumored affairs to whispered beefs within his own circle, there's always been a cloud of suspicion hovering over him. But with Asian Doll, the stakes were different. Because this wasn't just some fling. This was Von's girl. This was family. This was betrayal painted in neon lights. Anonymous sources claim that while Durk was on tour, certain flights were booked that never made it to the public eye. Private hotel receipts mysteriously disappeared. But every so often a fan would catch a blurred photo of someone who looked suspiciously like Asian Doll slipping into the back entrance. No one wanted to believe it at first. After all, the internet is full of fake stories. But then the whispers grew louder. Tweets appeared and disappeared in seconds, as if someone realized they had accidentally spilled the truth too soon. Screenshots of messages began floating around. Screenshots showing late-night confessions, questions about missed periods, and discussions that didn't sound like friendly banter. It sounded like two people locked in a dangerous dance, one step away from exposure. Fans who used to idolize the bond between Durk and Von couldn't even wrap their heads around it. Was this really happening, or was it just another cruel internet hoax designed to drag their names through the mud? And then, like a bomb dropping in the middle of the night, came the whispers of pregnancy. Yes, pregnancy. Asian Doll, the girl, who had spent months branding herself as the grieving widow of King Von, suddenly found herself at the center of rumors that she was carrying Lil Durk's child. The internet didn't know what to do with itself. Fans screamed betrayal. Bloggers sharpened their knives. And behind the scenes, it said that frantic calls were made. Lawyers were pulled in, and hush money became the name of the game. Abortion that allegedly followed wasn't just about personal choice. It became a necessity. A cover-up, a desperate attempt to erase a scandal that could shatter everything. Imagine the headlines if this had gone public at the time. Lil Durk impregnates King Von's girl while playing the loyal brother. Careers would have crumbled overnight. Legacies would have burned to ash. It would have been the final nail in the coffin for every lyric about loyalty Durk ever rapped. Fans who swore by the loyalty between Durk and Von started piecing things together. They pointed out lyrics in Durk's songs that suddenly sounded like hidden confessions, lines about taking risks and living with guilt. They brought up Asian Doll's cryptic tweets, those late-night emotional rants that never quite made sense, but now seemed to be painting an entirely new picture. She once tweeted about choices I had to make that nobody will ever understand, and at the time people thought she was talking about her career. Now fans believe it was a veiled reference to the abortion that no one was supposed to know about. And yet here we are, digging through the rubble of these secrets, watching as the puzzle pieces click together one by one. How long can something this massive stay hidden before the entire structure collapses? And let's not act like this was a harmless fling. The emotional betrayal is staggering. King Von's legacy wasn't just about music, it was about loyalty. About brotherhood, about a code that was supposed to be unbreakable. If the man he trusted most, the man who cried his name on stages and sold out arenas in his memory, was secretly crossing the most forbidden line imaginable, then what does that say about the foundation of it all? It's not just a scandal, it's a betrayal of biblical proportions. Imagine if Von's closest allies, his day ones, heard this story. Imagine the fury, the sense of disrespect, the feeling that their brother's name was being trampled on while his body was barely cold. That kind of betrayal doesn't fade with time, it festers. It burns, it destroys. And yet, here's the real kicker, the industry isn't shocked. Behind closed doors, people have been whispering about Durk and Asian Doll for months. Producers, managers, even other artists allegedly knew something was going on, but no one wanted to be the one to say it out loud. Everyone in the industry knows the golden rule. Keep the secrets that sell records. As long as the money keeps flowing, the scandals get swept under the rug. But fans don't forget. They connect dots, they dig into archives, they resurface. Old clips where eyes linger too long and smiles seem too familiar. They don't need a smoking gun, they just need enough smoke to believe the fire is real. And with this story, the smoke is practically suffocating. So where does this leave us? Right at the edge of an unraveling. The pregnancy rumors didn't just fade into thin air, they stuck. Like gum under the table, always resurfacing when you least expect it. The abortion whispers weren't just gossip, they were fueled by receipts that nobody wants to admit exist. And the betrayal? That's written in neon across the faces of fans who once believed in loyalty, now left wondering if they've been played for fools this entire time. This isn't just another messy hip-hop scandal. This is a story that could rewrite legacies, redraw alliances, and shatter the illusion of brotherhood once and for all. And that's exactly where Part 2 begins, because if you thought the whispers were bad, wait until you hear the so-called receipts that are about to come spilling out. Anonymous sources, leaked documents, and hidden testimonies are about to drag this story out of the shadows and into the brutal spotlight where nobody can hide. If Part 1 left you reeling, then get ready. Because Part 2 is where the so-called receipts start dripping out like poison in a cup of tea. And trust me, these aren't the kind of whispers you can brush off as internet gossip. These are the kind of leaks that keep managers up at night, that make publicists throw their phones across the room, that leave lawyers whispering about damage control while pretending nothing's wrong. Because according to insiders, the Durk and Asian doll situation didn't just stay behind closed doors. It left a paper trail, a digital footprint, and a collection of receipts too. Messy to ignore. Let's start with the infamous text exchanges that fans claim to have seen floating around. Screenshots of late-night iMessages, blurry but just clear enough to spark a wildfire. "We can't let this get out," one message allegedly reads. Another shows a conversation about doctor visits, with Asian doll allegedly asking, "What if someone finds out?" The replies are vague, full of emojis and short phrases, but they're enough to paint a dangerous picture. Anonymous sources swear that these messages were circulated among insiders before being scrubbed from the internet, deleted faster than fans could screen record. But you know how the internet works. Once something's out there, it never really dies. And in this case, the fragments are enough to fuel a conspiracy so big, fans are still piecing it together months later. Then there's the financial angle. Literal receipts surfaced that allegedly showed transactions linked to private clinics. One source claimed that hush-hush cash payments were made, tucked neatly into the accounts of an obscure medical center far from Chicago. Coincidence? Maybe. But when anonymous insiders start connecting dates, flights, and sudden gaps in tour schedules, the puzzle begins to look a lot less like coincidence and a lot more like a carefully orchestrated cover-up. Think about it. A rapper with millions, a scandal that could blow his image to shreds, and a partner who couldn't risk being exposed as the other woman in Von's shadow. The money trail doesn't lie. And according to one anonymous associate, that trail was wide enough to fill an entire ledger, but it doesn't stop at text messages and receipts. Oh no, because social media breadcrumbs tell a story of their own. Fans dug up old tweets from Asian doll where she talked about choices and losses that no one would ever understand. At the time, everyone thought she was talking about grief for Von, but now, those same tweets are being dissected word by word, with fans convinced she was actually hinting at the pregnancy and abortion. And let's not forget the Instagram lives, where she looked nervous, avoiding certain questions, brushing off comments with a laugh that sounded more like a cover-up than confidence. Fans don't miss these details. They freeze frame, they analyze, they compare. And every tiny slip becomes another nail in the coffin of Durk's so-called loyalty. Industry insiders claim the tension between Durk and Asian doll eventually boiled over. One source, who insisted on remaining anonymous but described themselves as close to the camp, revealed a heated argument that allegedly took place after the abortion. According to this source, Asian doll accused Durk of abandoning her emotionally when she needed him most, while Durk allegedly reminded her of the risks if the truth ever got out. Words like career suicide and legacy killer were reportedly thrown around. And if that's not dramatic enough, the same source swears that the argument nearly turned physical before handlers stepped in. Imagine that: the grieving girlfriend of King Von screaming at Von's closest ally over a secret pregnancy, while the industry around them pretended nothing was happening. And yet, the most chilling part isn't the argument. It's the alleged silence of those who knew. Producers, engineers, assistants, they all allegedly saw hints of what was happening, but they chose to keep quiet. Why? Because in this industry, silence is currency. If you want to keep your paycheck, you don't spill the tea. You swallow it. And that's exactly what happened until fans started sniffing around and the whispers could no longer be contained. By the time bloggers caught wind of the rumors, it was too late to bury them. The narrative had already escaped, like smoke, from a fire that no one wanted to admit existed. Fans reacted exactly how you'd expect: outrage, heartbreak, and a sense of betrayal that cut deep. Social media exploded with hashtags demanding answers, with fans asking how Durk could dare tarnish Von's legacy this way. One viral tweet read, If this is true, Durk ain't no brother. He's the snake Von never saw coming. Another. Simply said, Asian doll played everyone. She used Von's name for clout while sleeping with his boy. Harsh? Absolutely. But the internet doesn't do soft. It does brutal. And in this case, the brutality was aimed squarely at both Durk and Asian doll. And of course, the memes followed. Because nothing in this era is safe from meme culture. Pictures of Von with captions like, "This you, Durk?" Flooded timelines. Edits of Asian doll crying on live were remixed with sarcastic voiceovers, mocking her for loyalty while hinting at betrayal. Even rival rappers allegedly threw shade, dropping cryptic bars and freestyles that fans instantly tied back to. The scandal. The industry might stay quiet, but rappers? They love a subliminal. And this scandal gave them plenty of ammunition. But if you thought this was just about gossip and memes, think again. Because part 2 doesn't just end with fan theories, it ends with whispers of something much bigger. Investigations. According to some insiders, the money that allegedly changed hands for the abortion cover-up may not have been as discreet as they hoped. Tax records, unexplained cash withdrawals, and shady payments allegedly caught the attention of people far outside the music world. Lawyers whisper about possible probes, about the risk of financial crimes, about Durk's empire being scrutinized for more than just messy relationships. Could it be that a scandal meant to stay buried could actually trigger something as dangerous as legal consequences? That's the question swirling now. And so, as the walls begin to close in and the smoke grows too thick to ignore, part 2 leaves US with the chilling possibility that this isn't just a scandal of loyalty and betrayal. It's a scandal that could bleed into courts, into headlines, into legacies that no one thought could be destroyed. Fans are asking if Von's legacy is already gone, buried not by time but by betrayal. And if you think that's heavy, wait until part 3. Because the fallout isn't just about angry fans and whispered rumors anymore. It's about power money. And the kind of consequences that don't just stain reputations, they end them. The fallout from this scandal didn't just whisper through the corners of Twitter or the shady blogs that live off chaos. It detonated like a bomb in the heart of hip-hop. By the time rumors of Asian doll's pregnancy and abortion with Lil Durk reached mainstream ears, it wasn't just a scandal anymore, it was a crisis. Fans weren't just angry, they were demanding answers. Rival crews weren't just laughing, they were circling like sharks that smell blood in the water. And for Durk, a man who built his image on loyalty, on being the face of brotherhood after Von's death, this wasn't just embarrassing, it was career-threatening. Because here's the ugly truth. When the fans lose faith in your loyalty, your empire starts to crumble. Durk's every move began being reanalyzed through a new lens. Every lyric that once sounded like tribute to Von now sounded like guilt. Every public appearance with Von's name attached suddenly felt staged, fake, and self-serving. Fans accused him of building his fame on a dead man's name while secretly betraying him in the darkest way possible. And when that narrative takes hold, there's no PR team in the world strong enough to undo it. You can't spin betrayal. You can't rebrand treachery. Asian doll, on the other hand, found herself in a hurricane of hate. Once the self-proclaimed widow of King Von, the woman who cried on lives and defended his legacy with fire, was suddenly painted as the villain. Fans flooded her comments calling her disloyal, accusing her of exploiting Von's name for clout while sleeping with his brother in arms. You played the grieving widow card, one viral post read, while you were carrying Durk's baby. Shame. The venom was relentless. Lives she started in tears were met with laughing emojis. Posts she made about moving on were torn apart line by line. The internet had already chosen its verdict, guilty. And yet, the scandal didn't just eat them alive. Online, behind the scenes, whispers of legal consequences grew louder. Remember those alleged payments to cover up the abortion? The private clinic expenses, the sudden cash withdrawals, the hush money that insiders swore existed? Well, it turns out that money might not have been as invisible as Durk's team hoped. Lawyers began sniffing around. Tax authorities allegedly flagged unusual activity. Industry whispers claimed that investigators were quietly piecing together whether financial crimes were committed in the frantic effort to bury the truth. Could Durk's empire, built on platinum records and sold-out shows, actually crumble over something as personal as this? In this industry, where image and money are everything, the answer is terrifyingly possible. And then there's the music itself. Durk tried to outrun the scandal the only way he knew how, by dropping tracks, by flooding the market with music that would shift the narrative. But fans weren't buying it. Every lyric about pain, loyalty, or brotherhood was dissected as a possible confession. "I had to choose, I had to lose," one line read, and instantly the internet connected it to Asian Doll's alleged abortion. "This isn't about the streets," one fan tweeted. "This is about the baby he made disappear." Whether that interpretation was right or wrong didn't matter. Perception is reality, and the perception was brutal. Meanwhile, Asian Doll's attempts to defend herself only added fuel to the fire. Every time she denied the rumors, fans pulled up contradictions. Every time she claimed innocence, someone dug up an old clip or tweet that made her look guilty. It became a vicious cycle. Deny, get dragged, cry on live, get memed, repeat. The more she fought, the deeper she sank. And in the process, the very legacy she had once sworn to protect, Von's legacy, was ripped apart and dragged through the mud. Because now, no matter how many murals fans painted, no matter how many times his music was streamed, Von's name was forever tied to this scandal. The betrayal became part of his story. But here's the chilling part. Rival rappers and crews weren't about to let this golden opportunity slip. In an industry built on beef, betrayal is blood in the water. Rumors began swirling that certain artists were preparing diss tracks aimed at Durk, calling him out as a snake who couldn't even respect his own brother. Imagine the headlines: rival rappers spitting bars about Durk impregnating Von's girl, turning the scandal into entertainment for millions. If that happens, it's not just gossip anymore, it's cemented in music history, immortalized in a way no PR team can erase. And the fallout doesn't stop there. Sponsorships and partnerships allegedly began to waver. Brands don't like controversy. That feels too personal, too ugly. A cheating scandal they can overlook, a beef they can spin, but a betrayal of this magnitude? A potential financial crime attached to an abortion cover-up? That's toxic. Whispers grew that deals were being quietly shelved, that companies were reconsidering future opportunities. For an artist like Durk, whose empire stretches far beyond music, that's devastating. The loss isn't just reputation, it's millions. Asian Doll's career, already fragile, took an even harder hit. Once known as Von's grieving queen, she was now branded as the betrayer, the hypocrite, the woman who chose clout over loyalty. Fans who once streamed her music in Von's memory turned their backs. Collaborations dried up. Even fellow female rappers who might have stood in solidarity in another situation, allegedly kept their distance, not wanting to get caught in the crossfire of the scandal. The isolation was complete. The fall from grace was brutal. And yet, through all of this, the most haunting question remains: what would King Von himself have said? What would he have done if he were alive to see the two people closest to him tangled in such a scandal? Fans imagine him furious, betrayed, ready for war. Some even claim his ghost still lingers over the story, haunting Durk's every lyric, exposing Asian Doll's every slip. Whether you believe in that kind of thing or not, the symbolism is undeniable. Von's legacy has been rewritten. Not by his enemies on the street, but by the people who claim to love him most. By the time the dust settled, one thing was clear: this wasn't just a scandal, it was a legacy killer. the abortion whispers weren't just rumors. They became the defining narrative. The secret baby wasn't just gossip. It became the lens through which fans saw everything. And the betrayal? That's the scar that will never fade. The story that will always shadow Durk's career. No matter how many hits he drops or stages he sells out. So here we are, standing at the edge of the rubble, asking the only question that matters. Can Durk ever recover from this? Can Asian Doll ever rebuild her name? Or has King Von's legacy been permanently destroyed? Buried not by time, not by enemies, but by betrayal. So personal it will echo forever? Fans have already made their decision. The internet has already written its verdict. And unless some miracle happens, this scandal will go down as one of the darkest stains in hip-hop history. Because in the end, it wasn't bullets or beef that destroyed Von's legacy. It was love, lust, and betrayal. And that's the kind of story you can't erase, no matter how many times you try to rewrite the lyrics. Viewers, what do you even say after this? A scandal so raw, so personal, that it doesn't just shake an artist's image, it rewrites an entire legacy. We're talking about Lil Durk, the man fans once called loyal to the bone, now caught in whispers of betrayal that even Hollywood scriptwriters couldn't dream up. We're talking about Asian Doll, the self-proclaimed queen of Von's memory, now dragged into the darkest corner of the internet as the alleged betrayer. And most tragically, we're talking about King Von, a name that once stood for loyalty, brotherhood, and respect, now tied forever to a story that reeks of secrets, lies, and shattered trust. But here's the real question. Who do you believe? Do you think Durk and Asian Doll really crossed that forbidden line, leaving Von's legacy in ruins? Or is this just another case of the industry's dirtiest whispers getting louder than the truth? One thing is for sure, this story isn't just gossip anymore. It's a mirror held up to the game, showing us that loyalty is fragile, betrayal is everywhere, and legacies can be destroyed not by bullets, but by the people closest to you. And that's why you need to keep your eyes locked on Spillora, because here, we don't just report the headlines, we expose the truths that others are too scared to say out loud. The questions that shake the culture, the scandals that rip through reputations, the betrayals that fans will never forget. You'll find them all right here. So tell me in the comments, has Lil Durk finally crossed the line of no return? Did Asian Doll just bury Von's legacy with one choice? Or is this all smoke with no fire? Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the tea only gets hotter from here. And Spillora is where it always spills first.